Hello and welcome everyone to the first meeting of Athens Tableau user group. My name is Eleni Gkika. I will be your host for tonight. So before we start, you are all on mute. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section. And if you have any comments, you can use the chat. Some of you have already used it, so I guess you know how to do it. The meeting will be recorded and uploaded on YouTube later, maybe today or tomorrow. I will do the rest of my introduction in Greek because I think it's very important for Greeks to have some resources in Greek. And of course, the main presentation from Heidi will be in English. So stay with us. Καλησπέρα, καλώς ήρθατε. Είμαι η Ελένη Γκίκα, όπως είπα και πριν, και θα είμαι κοδέσποινά σας για απόψε. Αρχικά θα πούμε κάποια βασικά πράγματα για το τι κάνουμε σήμερα εδώ. Και στη συνέχεια η Heidi θα μας παρουσιάσει για την κοινότητα του Tableau και πώς την βοήθησε τι έμαθε από αυτή την κοινότητα και πώς την βοήθησε στην δική της πορεία στο Tableau. Και στο δεύτερο κομμάτι της παρουσίασής της θα μας δώσει κάποιες πρακτικές συμβουλές που πιστεύω θα μας βοηθήσουν όλους να γίνουμε καλύτεροι στη χρήση του Tableau. Και θα απαντήσουμε τις δικές σας ερωτήσεις και αν θέλετε μπορούμε να κάνουμε και μια ανοιχτή συζήτηση για να γνωριστούμε καλύτερα. Οπότε, όπως είπα, είμαι η Ελένη Γκίκα, θα είμαι η κοδέσποινα για απόψε. Είχα την ιδέα να ξεκινήσω αυτό το user group όταν είδα στο Tableau Europe τον Ιούνιο ότι άλλες χώρες έχουν πολύ ενεργές κοινότητες και σκέφτηκα ότι θα ήταν πολύ ωραίο να έχουμε και εμείς μια κοινότητα εδώ στην Ελλάδα. Εργάζομαι ως business analyst στη Ρώστια Γνώστης Ελλάς και ασχολούμαι με το Tableau τα τελευταία 2 χρόνια. Και ένα fun fact για μένα είναι ότι όταν ταξιδεύω, μου αρέσει να γράφω travel journal. Μαζί μας σήμερα είναι η Heidi Kalbe που θα παρουσιάσει, όπως είπα και πριν, 2 πολύ ενδιαφέροντα θέματα. Εργάζεται ως Analytics Evangelist στο Information Lab Deutschland και επίσης είναι leader στο Tableau User Group Data Plus Women στη Γερμανία και είναι και Tableau Ambassador. Και ένα fun fact για τη Heidi είναι ότι λατρεύει τα άλπακα. Οπότε, τι είναι ένα Tableau User Group και γιατί είμαστε σήμερα εδώ. Είναι μια κοινότητα από άτομα που χρησιμοποιούν το Tableau και είτε βρίσκονται στην ίδια περιοχή. Εμείς στην Αθήνα και ίσως όλη την Ελλάδα σήμερα, δεν ξέρω. Είτε έχουν ένα κοινό ενδιαφέρον, όπως ας πούμε το Data Plus Women ή για το Healthcare και διάφορες άλλες κοινότητες. Και ο σκοπός είναι να μοιραστούμε τις εμπειρίες μας, να μάθουμε καινούργια πράγματα πάνω στο Tableau και να ανακαλύψουμε τι άλλο μπορούμε να κάνουμε για να κάνουμε τη δουλειά μας καλύτερη. Σκοπός μου είναι κι αν όλοι θέλετε φυσικά, να έχουμε ένα meeting κάθε 1 με 2 μήνες. Και στο μεταξύ μπορείτε να μπείτε στο Tableau Community Forum και στο group στο LinkedIn. Θα βάλω τα link στο chat στη συνέχεια. Που μπορείτε να μοιράζεστε εκεί οτιδήποτε. Μπορεί να έχετε κάποια δυσκολία να φτιάξετε κάτι στο Tableau ή να βρήκατε κάποιο ενδιαφέρον άρθρο σχετικό με το Tableau. Και φυσικά να ενημερώνεστε για τα επόμενα events. So, Heidi, it's time for you to join us. I already did the introduction for you, as you might have seen in the slides. And the stage is yours. You are on mute.
Thanks, I'm on mute, yes.
Thank you for joining us today.
Classic. Thank you.
And you can start your great presentations.
Perfect, thank you. All right, let me just minimize that window, and there we go. All right, hi everyone. So I know that Eleni already introduced me, but for the one person joining us from Great Britain today who might not speak Greek, let me say a few words. So my name is Heidi Kalbe. I'm a 2020 Tableau Social Ambassador, and I'm a co-founder and leader of Data Plus Women in Germany, which is an initiative to promote and improve diversity in the data community. But other than the name suggests, it's open to all genders, so we're happy for you to join us virtually at our next events. I started using Tableau 3.5 years back, and I started working with the Information Lab here in Germany as a BI consultant 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And since then, I've trained over 400 Tableau users. Today, I work there as an analytics evangelist, so I'm not only responsible for technical enablement of our clients and customers, but I also want to inspire them and, you know, make that spark and the passion just jump over. And I can honestly say that this is the best job I could have ever wished for. I enjoy my passion for Tableau in my free time as well, as you can see. So I speak at Tableau user groups all over the world, at Data Plus Women chapters all over the world, and I will in fact be speaking at Tableau conference next week. So if you're interested in set and parameter actions, definitely check that out. It's free and it's virtual, so you don't have an excuse not to join. But why is it that I'm so excited about Tableau? Well, it's because the Tableau community is one of the most vibrant and welcoming tech communities in the world. But how can you get involved, and how can you make the best of your experience? The following are 12 steps that have helped me in the past to get involved. So how do you start out? Step number 1, network. I slipped into the Tableau community unnoticed by anyone, least of all by myself. I was writing my bachelor thesis on the topic of Tableau at the time, and I had to figure out the software on my own. And I found it both staggeringly simple and mind-bogglingly frustrating. Over dinner with a friend, I was asked how things were going, and I immediately launched into a rant how Tableau failed at the easiest things that Excel could do in a heartbeat. My friend calmly listened to my rant and then suggested that he reach out to a friend of his who might be able to help me with all of that. So 3 weeks later, I was on the phone with Andreas Kollmorgen of the Information Lab here in Germany, and he helped me pro bono with my thesis. He also casually asked me what my plans were for after graduation. And tomorrow, he will have been my colleague for the past 3 years. What can you learn from that? Reach out to your friends. The fact is that we are connected with everybody in this world through 7 people or fewer. So if you need help or you find yourself looking for a new opportunity, just talk to people who are likely to know someone who knows someone who knows someone. And sooner than you know it, you will find yourself in the place where you've always wanted to end up. Number 2, visit events. I went to my first community event in 2017, where I met many people who would later become my colleagues, my clients, my mentors, my friends. I widened my network and I met people I never would have otherwise met. I also learned about Tableau Public and Twitter for the first time. I've since attended multiple Tableau user groups around the world. I've been to other meetups around data and started Data Plus Women in Germany. What can you learn from that? Visit as many events as you can. Look for a Tableau user group near you or check out data-related groups on Meetup. There's plenty to go out there, and you've done a great first step by joining Athens Talk today. Number 3, tweet. 2 days after my first community event, I created my Twitter account. I started reaching out to people who had written helpful blog posts, and I began pushing my own visualizations, such as this one, as much as I could. I received my first Viz of the Day just a few weeks later. A year after that, Klaus Schulte won RMViz Europe with a chart type that I had developed in said Viz of the Day, and he even credited me in that Viz. Over the years, I've made friends all around the world via Twitter, many of whom I wouldn't meet until years later. These friendships friendships meant that I had plenty of people to visit on my journey around the world earlier this year. And it fills my heart to have this kind of family on the other side of the globe. So what can you learn from that? Maybe you are shy about talking to people face to face. Maybe you live in a remote location and there are no events near you. Maybe you just don't like getting up from the couch. These things are no excuse to not engage with the Tableau community. Use Twitter and tweet away. Bombard the community with your brilliance and reach out and find new friends. Ask for feedback and you shall receive. Give credit where credit is due and it will be returned. Number 4, build a public portfolio. When I applied for a job at the Information Lab in Germany, I included a link to my Tableau public profile in my CV. This allowed me to skip a step in the application process. As a consultant, some clients will ask for proof of my skills. Since I can hardly show them dashboards that I built for another client, I introduced them to my Tableau public portfolio. This validates my skill set and sets their minds at ease for our continued work together. In my trainings, some business users aren't convinced that they will ever be able to live and breathe Tableau as easily as their IT colleagues. I usually show them my first Tableau public visits with the standard color scales and all bar charts and unpolished tooltips. I tell them that Tableau is a journey and that everyone can find their own paths. What can you learn from that? Publish away, delete nothing. Create a living portfolio that shows your development. Use it to convince employers and clients of your skills. Use it to tell the story of your own Tableau journey. Number 5, blog. I started blogging for the German corporate blog of the Information Lab. With the help of Chris McClellan and the DataFam project, I started my very own blog last year. Why? Well, first of all, I love writing and I love data visualization, so blogging seemed like the obvious next step. It's also great for finding answers quick. I can't tell you the number of times I've had to look up my own blog posts because I had forgotten how I did something in the past. This, of course, has 2 very pleasant side effects. Number 1, when a colleague or a client has a question on how to do something, I can simply direct them to a helpful blog post on the very topic they were inquiring after. And number 2, when people search for my content online, Google has stopped asking them whether they were searching for the late Heidi Kalbe instead, a rather famous German actress who sadly passed away 10 years ago and whose name is eerily similar to mine. So what can you learn from that? If people find your posts helpful, they will share them with their network. You can help yourself and others find answers to their questions fast. Number 6, speak. Looking back, public speaking has given my personal development one hell of a shot for it. 3 years ago, I was the one to hover awkwardly in the background while I let the man on my team present the results of a group effort. A year later, I participated in my first Tableau Fringe Festival, a virtual conference. And just last year, I even spoke at Tableau conference in Europe. Presenting will allow you to build a library of content. I participated in my very first Tableau Fringe Festival in December 2018, and I have since held that same talk another 8 times at guest lectures and info evenings and Tableau user groups. Your presentations are also a good conversation starter. A client once mentioned to me over lunch that they were catching up on the recordings of sessions at TC Europe, and they talked about one in particular that they had liked, about how conventional BI was killing businesses. Turns out that was my session. What can you learn from that? People are scared of speaking in front of an audience themselves, so others will be impressed and subconsciously maybe even somewhat grateful that you were the one to brave the stage so that they didn't have to. They will associate positive emotions with you. You will also improve your own soft skills. Not only does public speaking become a little less scary with every presentation you do, you also become more confident in human interaction and in your own expertise in general. Now, these were numbers 1 through 6, but how do you go on? Number 7, stay engaged. Community engagement is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Prove to others that you are not a one-off show by becoming a consistent contributor. Continue to tweet, viz, blog, and speak. Nurture your network and focus long-term. Number 8, say yes. A friend once told me, if an opportunity bites you in the arse, you take it first and figure out how to do it later. Be brave and push yourself. There is so much more inside you than you know. Become the person that you want to be by stopping to tell yourself what you cannot do. Number 9, find your passion. All the things I mentioned before take effort, so you should choose something that energizes you in turn. It's natural to try things out, but once you've found what you love, you should concentrate on doing just that to the best of your abilities. For me, that's writing and public speaking. So I continue to blog, lead Data Plus Women Germany, and speak at community events such as this one. Number 10, get a cheerleader. Find somebody to hold you accountable for your goals. My personal cheerleader pushed me to apply for my first Tableau Fringe Festival. This photo was taken just a few minutes after I had hit the send button on my application. You can see all of these thoughts running through my head. Oh God, why did you push me to apply? Thank you, thank you, thank you for pushing me to apply. Oh God, what if they don't take me? Oh no, what if they do take me? Just recently, I went to my cheerleader and told him, thank you for continuously pushing me over the cliff so that I may realize that I can actually fly. Number 11, help others. Help others and be helped in return. All the things that I mentioned will get you only half as far if you do it merely for your own personal gain. People say that karma is a bitch, but personally, I have found karma to be my best friend. If you're only out there to help yourself, you don't really build a community. You just end up with a whole bunch of self-important show people. So support and be supported, and the community will come alive. Number 12, don't wait. There's nothing holding you back except for your own fears. Life starts on the other side of fear, and the community is there for you to dive right in. So don't wait, start now. And with that being said, we will wait for all questions that you may or may not have asked until the end, and I will dive right into my 20 tips in 20 minutes, hopefully. So let's check that out.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. It's very interesting. And I hope you inspired some people to be more active in our community.
Thank you. Okay, so speed tipping. Now, the following 20 tips are just some tiny things I picked up over the last 3.5 years of using Tableau. Before I start, I want to tell you, please don't try to take notes, and please don't try to click along in Tableau or anything like that, because this is going to be fast. Fast. And I have everything that I'm showing you will be in detail on my blog. And as Eleni said, this session is being recorded, so you can watch it with all the time of the world again afterwards, and of course, reach out with any questions you might have. I'll do my best to fit it into 20 minutes, but I will admit that it takes me a bit more, and I do have a bonus tip at the end, but to be fair, 21 tips in 23 minutes just doesn't sound as catchy. All right, so without further ado, I'll dive right in. Tip number 1 and 2 is about formatting. So what I have here is I'm comparing the time it took you to take taxes. So from 2012 compared to 2011. So we can see in Russia, it took a lot less time. In Mongolia, it took the same time. And in Myanmar, it took a lot more time. But I do have the minus here, and I want to make it very, very obvious. So I want to have triangles at the front. And to do that, I simply go to any kind of search engine that you want, and I look for UTF-8 triangle. You can see I looked that up a lot. And then go to any one of these lists that come up, and I want to have let's say an upward triangle here. Why do I have that here? So I simply copy that and go back into Tableau, and I right click and format. And then I want to have that number. And you can see I can go to custom and add in different signs here. So I just add this upward triangle at the front and then go back to my search engine and copy this one and paste that in here. And then you can see I have this downward triangle and I have the upward triangle here. Let's make that very, very obvious. So I'll actually add in a plus here as well. And if, well, you can see for the 0 values, I also have this upward triangle and plus, but it's actually not because it's the same type, right? So I want to have that here as well. And I'll actually Google plus minus sign. And then again, just copy that from anywhere, let's say from here. Don't even have to visit the page. And then what I can do is I have the positive numbers in front, then the negative numbers, and I can add another semicolon. And then in here, I get the 0 numbers. So now I have the downward triangle minus for negative numbers, plus minus sign for zeros, and upward triangle plus for positive numbers. Tip number 1. But what if I don't want to see the exact numbers? Maybe I just want to know more time, less time, same amount of time. Now, of course, I could do a calculated field with an if-else condition, but I actually can do that via formatting as well. So I will just get rid of everything in here and type in more time, less time, and same time. And you can see Tableau took that as formatting, less time, same time, and more time, very easily done. That was tip number 2. Tip number 3, also kind of about text. So if you've been using Tableau for a while, you might have discovered word clouds, or you may even have discovered bubble charts, which are super fancy, not super informative, but very fancy. So I will admit I have built both of those 2 chart types. But you can't really do bubble charts with symbols, because that would be super fun, right? Not just have the circles, but symbols instead. But we can do something similar, so we can kind of fake that. So again, using UTF-8 signs, let's look for UTF-8 pictures, which are kind of unusual UTF-8 signs, but again, still normal characters that you can use in any font type. So you have the tulip here, and the pizza, and the alarm clock, and clouds, and I don't know, a cup of coffee. And again, you can just copy these and use them in Tableau. So what I've done is I've actually copied my, my dimension, and I have edited the aliases here. And you can see I, for example, have the hammers for construction, and I have the musical notes for entertainment, and the sun for education. And what I can do is I simply dump this in here. And now I kind of have a bubble chart with symbols. Now, labeling. Maybe you want to label your bars. So what can I do? I can currently label, sorry, this I was going to use. I can label the inside end of the bars, and I can label the outside end of the bars. But what if I want to label the inside of the end of my bars? So basically here. Well, I can do that by simply duplicating this axis. So I hit the Control key and drag it to the right. And then I will make this a Gantt bar and label this Gantt bar. And you can probably see where we're going with this. So currently it's again the outside of the bars. I now want to label the left side of the Gantt bars. And then I just make this a dual axis. And very important, don't forget to synchronize the axis, and we can actually get rid of this header up here. And now I've labeled the inside end of my bars. If you don't want to do that, maybe you want to label differently. Maybe you want to label on top or underneath the bar. Well, you can do that as well. If you just add in a reference line, and let's make that per cell, and let's actually use the value, and you can already see they are on top here. We don't want to have a line because that's the one where it gets tricky. And now I can actually format this line, and I can adjust the label. So let's make it on the left-hand side of the bar, and we can have it either on top of the bar or underneath, wherever we want. So that was tip number 5. Tip number 6. Sometimes you are using pages in Tableau. So pages are nice to show different perspectives of the same data. So for example, I'm looking at inbound and outbound tourism in the different world regions, and I want to print that to PDF because somebody is too lazy to use Tableau, or for whatever reason, I want to print it to PDF. So I can go to File and Print to PDF, and let's do that. And what I expect to happen is I expect to have one page per Tableau page, right? But what actually happens is I only have the one page of the Americas, so the last page that I was looking at. What can I do to make that different and to have one page per Tableau page? Well, there's one setting under File and Page Setup. So at the bottom, you have the page itself, and you can see that when I print, it's currently showing only the current page. And if I want to show all pages, that's what I have to select. So let's hit OK. Let's try print to PDF again. Yes, and show me the file of the printing. Yes, yes, override. And now we can see that one PDF page per Tableau page will show up, and I can easily leaf through them. So very easy trick. Number 7, sometimes you are developing calculated fields and maybe you're not quite certain how you want to go, so you have a lot of comments in there. So in my case, I have this field time to fund, and I have an option for in days, and I have one for in hours, and I wasn't certain which one the users were going to want, and they have decided on in hours. So it's easy enough to comment this out using 2 slashes. But then I want to delete all of these slashes in the front, and I don't want to go through every single row and delete them because that's tedious. So what can I do? I can hit my Alt key, and then I can easily highlight elements on top of each other. That did not go too well. Let's try that again. Yeah, so highlight them on top of each other and get rid of all of them just by hitting the Alt key. And you can see now the numbers change and we have the time difference in hours. One more thing you can do with comments. So when you are developing, for example, a donut chart and you need to have 2 helper axes, they will be kind of confusing because both are the minimum of 0. And now I have aggregated minimum of 0 and aggregated minimum of 0 too. So that's a bit confusing and I'm never certain which one I have to use. So what can I do? I can simply name them by double clicking on the field, going to the very first position and adding in 2 slashes. And this is my dough, and then hit Shift and Enter for a line break and hit Enter again. And you can see the pill has been renamed, the mask card has been renamed, and the axis has been renamed as well. And I can do that for the other one as well. So double slash, and this is the whole of my donut. And there we go. And now I can easily distinguish between the dough and the whole. And one additional benefit of this is tip number 9. If I do want to persist this, so make this a permanent field, I just drag it over to my data pane, and you can see the Tableau automatically renames using the comment that I added in line. Number 10. One of the longest ongoing discussions in the data visualization community is, are we allowed to truncate axes? So one easy thing you should always remember is never truncate your axes when you have bars. But in this case, I have a line chart, and we can see that the values differ between 54 and 44%, so pretty close to each other. And I'm not certain if I can truncate the axis. Some users like it, some users don't. So which way do I go? The easiest thing would be to give the user the option to decide that themselves. So we can do that by first creating a parameter, and I will call this zoom axis ? So that users understand this is something they can decide. I get a Boolean and yes, zoom, no, show complete axis. So I have these 2 options and I hit OK, and let's actually show this parameter. And for the moment, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So what is actually going on? I still need a calculated field to refer to that parameter. So this is my 0 line. And the calculation in here is if zoom axis, then make it null, and else make it 0, end. So very easy calculation. You will see why I need that in a moment. Let's move this to detail. and then I will add in a reference line using this 0 line. I don't want a computation, I don't want a tooltip, and I don't actually want a line, but I'll use one anyway, just so that you can see what's going on here for a moment. So for the moment, we can't see this 0 line because you remember I have the parameter on yes, so currently the value is null. And if I use no, then we have this 0 line at the bottom here. But what does it actually do? So one more step is needed. We double click on the axis, and then I want to decide which part of the axis do I show. But I don't actually want to make this fixed because then the user wouldn't be able to change that. So I want to leave it on automatic, but not include 0. And what happens now? It's still including 0 because I have this 0 line in here. But if the 0 line vanishes because I put the parameter to yes, then it's zooming in. So the only thing that is left to do is if I say no, I simply edit this axis, and that's why I don't want to have a line here, because I don't want the users to know what's happening. So I can either zoom or not zoom. Very easily done. I have this world map here, and I want to see the tooltips. So you can see I've already edited that, but I actually want to shade the tooltip. So I want to have the tooltip for Africa to be purple, and I want the tooltip background for APAC to be green. And I can't really do that easily in here if I don't create an extra sheet. So that's what I do. Tip number 11. You see I've already prepared some here. And let's actually create a helper axis in here that I will make fixed and then get rid of. And let's actually make this super large, and I don't want to have the country in here. And let's actually make this the entire view and a little less opaque. And of course, this looks ridiculous now, but what I'm going to do is I will use this as a viz in tooltip. So get rid of everything in here and instead insert this sheet and make this the perfect height. And then what happens now? As you can see, the tooltips have the color of the world region they are associated with. Now, tip number 12. It's again about color. So let's say you have your corporate color palette or like your personal colors that you always want to have, and you've already inserted them into Tableau. So you have your custom color palette, but you can't reach that using this color editor if you don't know the HTML code by heart, and I personally don't. So what do you do if you just want to use the one color? Well, you just double click on the marks card and add in any kind of calculation, doesn't matter which one. And then you put this to color. And now what you can do is you can edit your colors and go to your custom color palette and give this whatever color you want out of your corporate color palette. And there we go. So very easily done. Tip number 13. I have a timeline of colors in this, of values. In this case, it's energy usage, and I want to see historical highs. So for example, 2003 was the highest energy usage up until 2003. 2004 was the highest usage up until 2004. 2005, not so much. And I want to color that. So I simply do a calculated field. Let's call this historical highs. And this will be a very simple calculation because I want to compare the sum of my energy usage. And I want to know, is it the same as the running max of the sum of my energy usage? And what will happen here? If I now move this to color, we can see that historical highs are colored in orange. And now I'll just change the colors. Actually, let's make this a light gray and this a dark gray. Let's actually make this a lighter gray because I can't see anything. And now the dark gray bars are the historical highs. Maybe you want to have a geographical field. So you already know I have my countries and I have my regions in here. And every country belongs to exactly one world region, obviously. But I don't want to see the individual countries. I just want to have one field for all of Africa and one field for all of Europe and Russia, etc. So I can simply drag off country, but then my map is empty because we can see that region is not a geographical field because Africa is not, you know, a certain location that Tableau knows. So what I can do is I can assign a geographical role. We don't really have world region in here, but we can create it from country. And if I do that, Tableau will need a couple of seconds to compute this. And then we will end up with one field per world region. And there we go. So we see we have one field for Africa and one field for all of Europe, etc., because Tableau calculated that out of all the countries that go into that region. Now, tip number 15, I want to color the seas. And I don't simply want them blue or black or white. I want them, let's say, yellow, because, you know, I like yellow, so I want the seas to be yellow for whatever reason. I can go to map layers, and I have a couple of options here, but I only really have dark, and I have outdoors, which makes it blue, but I don't have the option to give this a precise color. And I don't really want to go to an external mapping service. So what can I do? I can simply remove the base so that everything goes white for a moment. And then I can format this whole sheet. And I just go to shading and color my seas. Let's make this a really bright yellow. I simply color my seas yellow, and then the seas are yellow. So that's one way of doing it. Talking about color, I like to have my dashboards a bit colorful, but I know that some people want to print them, so making them too colorful isn't really a good option because that takes up a lot of ink. So what can we do? Wouldn't it be nice to have a button to say, hey, make me white or shade me again? And we can easily do that. So this is essentially just a show hide button, which I'm using to edit the floating container in the back. So I have a floating container in the front here. So we can see I can simply move all of this. Then I have another floating container in the back, which is just a colored field. And this is the show hide button. So if I hide this container, then it's gone. And if I show it again, the color is there. So that's one way of switching the background color between white and anything else. But what if you want to give the people a whole number of choices? So what I've done is I have created a color picker, which is basically just a glorified pie chart with different colors for every segment. Doesn't really matter which ones. This is the one thing I did. And I've also created a set. So we can see I have this set color, and currently everything is in this set for color. And I also have a sheet where I've simply added in all of these colors, and you can see I have the set in my filter, which is very important. So what did I do? I use this field with all the colors in the background, and I have my color picker in the front. And all that I need to do is assign a set action. So I will actually change the set values. This is my color picker. And I want to use the color picker. And when I hover, let's say hover, I want to go to this data set and assign something to the color. I want to assign this, and then I want to keep the set values. And there we go. And if I now hover over anything here, you can see that the background changes color. So I can easily go around this pie chart and give this any color I want. Maybe users will not understand what they are supposed to do with the color wheel. So we understand it, but users don't. And what we can do is we can create instructive overlays. So you go to your dashboard and then copy an image. So basically just making a screenshot of your dashboard. And then you go to any picture editing software you like to use. I don't really know my way around picture editing software, so I just use PowerPoint, which is the easiest thing. And you copy this or you paste this in here. I've already done that just to make things easier. And then you can add any kind of shapes to this. So I've simply added this shape in to make sure I want this to point at the color wheel. And then what I've also done is I have added this frame so that I actually know where my shape is to go in relation to the dashboard. So I highlight my frame, and then hit Control and select all of my sheets, all of my shapes. And then I save this as an image. Important thing here is not to save your screenshot because you don't want that. And then we go back to Tableau. And again, this is a show hide button. And if I show my overlay, this is what I did. So just a floating container, it's transparent. So even if I change the color in the background, we can still see through this, and users will understand what to do here, and then they can close it again to interact with the dashboard. Now, the one thing that kind of irks me about this solution with the color wheel is that I have to use a hover action because maybe people want this to be purple and then they move away the mouse and suddenly it's light green, which is annoying. So what can I do? I can go to dashboard, make this an action, and of course make this a select action. But then the annoying thing is when I now select something, this stays, you know, the rest is all grayed out and I would have to click it again and then, oh no, I have to, okay, that was actually my bad. Adapt the action here, sorry. So I would have to click it twice and that's annoying, but I can actually solve that by going into this sheet. Is anything happening? No. And adding another calculated field, which I simply call deselect, and this can be anything or nothing in this case, doesn't really matter, can make it ASDF, and I simply put this on detail. So the important thing about this calculated field is that it writes the same result into every single row of my data set. So every section of this pie chart now has the same value. And if I go back here, I can add in a highlight action. From the color picker to the color picker, upon selection, I simply want to target my deselect field. And what's happening now? So if I select any slice here, this calculation will be highlighted in every aspect of this chart that has that calculation will be highlighted. And because it's the same everywhere, everything will be highlighted, meaning nothing is grayed out. So that's an easy option to not have to deselect again. And tip number 20. You know that you can move objects by using the arrow keys and then it moves super slowly. So what you can do instead is hit your shift and arrow keys and it will move 10 times as fast, literally 10 times as fast. And you can very easily shift things around on your dashboard. And maybe you have created a dashboard that is still under construction, but users are already using it for testing or whatever else. So this is the bonus tip. So you want to add in a hint for another developer who is working on this dashboard together with you, or you hand it over to somebody else. So what we can do is we add in a floating text object. And let's actually make this a bit bigger and bold. And you want to include an important hint for the developers, not for end users. And of course, if you make that floating and have it in the middle of the dashboard, the end users will see it. So what you can do is you can hit your shift and arrow key to move it to the very edge of the dashboard where they will not be able to see it. Or if you want to be very certain that it's very much outside the dashboard, you can do that using layout. Why can't I simply do that using the mouse? Well, if you try to move it outside the dashboard, Tableau will assume that you don't want it in the dashboard and simply delete it. So you have to leave it here and then go to layout and move this to a position where it's definitely outside. So for example, 1200, and then you can see it's not inside the dashboard anymore. And that was tip number 21. So 21 tips in maybe 24 minutes, let's hope. Again, everything I showed you, you can find on my blog. So simply check out queenofdata.net and feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or on Twitter. You can find me there under the handle, the information, the Heidi K. Sorry, I was reading the front here. Check out my Tableau public profile. Find me on Instagram if you like. And be sure to check out my talk on set actions versus parameter actions next week at TC. And that was it. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Heidi. That was great. I think these tips will help all of us make better dashboards. and more creative. So let's see if anyone has any questions. I don't see anything here. If you have any questions, you can add them in the Q&A section. If not, let's wait for 1 minute. People might think more questions. And if not, we will move on to our networking part, because this is our first meeting and it's good to get to know each other. Yes, we have a first. We will have this is recorded and it will be sent out to you in an email with the links I sent above about the groups you can join, and of course today's presentation will be sent out. So if you don't have any other questions on the presentations, of course, I want to thank Heidi for being with us today. And now I want to show you how you can get more involved in our group. If you want, first of all, you can send me a message on LinkedIn or my email. And you can present in a following meeting, the next time we meet. You can share your data story and Tableau experience or your own tips and tricks, as Heidi did today, or how Tableau is creating value in your organization. Another way you can be involved in the group is to help organize the next event.
Eleni, you're currently not sharing your screen. You probably wanted to do
sorry.
that. Sorry.
Hold on, I'm sorry for this. Sorry for this delay.
No worries.
Am I sharing now?
Yes, perfect. Maybe go into full screen mode and then we can see it perfectly. Great.
Great. So as I said, you can share your own story and be a presenter. It would be great if we will have someone present in Greek next time. As I said, we don't have many or maybe any resources in Greek. And of course, if some of you are more talented in the designing side, you can help create a logo for Athens user group. So as Heidi said, next week is the Tableau Conference 2020. It's 100% free and virtual. There will be many sessions where you can learn new things, connect with people, and be inspired to be even more creative in Tableau. And of course, there is Heidi's presentation if you want more. Here is a sample schedule. You can create your own and make it fit your interests and needs, what you want to learn more. And of course, something that is very interesting, and I would love to meet you all there, is Brain Dates. It's a small session, up to 6 people, where we can get together and chat about Tableau or any other, and everything that's interesting in that. Any topic we want to discuss with Tableau. And it would be great to see some of you there and chat in a brain date. We can have an Athens brain date. We can chat about that later on. So I think now we can stop our recording, since it's the last part where we will have our open discussion and get to know each other.